All right, here we go. Big business. Now, big business monopolies, we're going to get into the leaders in number one. Number two, we'll talk about some other things and how they made their money. Now, my song for big business. Um, I guess I'll kind of get that later on with the labor unions. But there's many different ideas here. So, here we go. Now, these people who create monopolies and trust had dual nicknames. Uh, and half angel, half devil, if you will. The half angel, captains of industry. These are the men who built America. Remember we talked about it. Carnegie, Morgan, Rockefeller, Vanderbilt. We love them. They did things. They were good. At the same time, the half devil side, they were called robber barons as well. As you see here, the robber barons have an industry and they are fat. Now, why are they caricatured as being fat? Greed inflates. It's the idea of. Now, what are they doing? They're taking the money from the common people to make themselves puffed up in pride. So how can the same person be that? Basically, captain of industry is anybody who's doing something for good of other people, America, immigrants, etc. Robber barons, you're doing it at the expense of others and actually hurting the common people. Our first one is our biggest one. This guy would make Bill Gates look like a common pauper or just a common, middle-class person. His name is John D. Rockefeller. Rockefeller Center in New York City bears this man's name, and his trust was actually broken up into many, many different things. So what was this trust called? It was called the Standard Oil Trust, and look what they used to. It's Frank Norris' octopus, right? So the octopus is going to be used here a ton. Why? One head, many arms. They're outreaching and controlling all these different assets. So please be aware if you see an octopus and it's talking about taking assets, money, and power, it's Standard Oil. It's going to be a monopoly. So that's something that has to be ideated. Okay? And why? Frank Norris' octopus, and now it's applied to the monopolies, in particular Standard Oil. Now, how did he create his business? He did it two things. Number one, horizontal integration. I give this example every year. If you're walking down and you're crowded in the Great Hall and all the people are right here, you might get a little paranoid. You go, I need space now. And you karate chop people in the throat. Now, as they're on the ground, gasping for air, you have created a monopoly on airspace. I have no one around to create my airspace. So that is through horizontal integration. He basically went up and bought these companies that were crowding him to create a much larger company, and that's called horizontal integration. Now, the other way he did it was called a rebate. Now, a rebate is money back. Basically, he undersold through the competition. They couldn't compete, and then eventually they come to him and say, hey, we want to sell. And so what you have here is John D. Rockefeller became this king to an extent. He's standing on top of Standard Oil, but what he basically also controlled was the steel mills. He bought Carnegie's steel mills later in life, the railroads. He controlled everything because he could control the oil. This guy is horribly powerful. And so there you go with that. Now, our next one was Andrew Carnegie. Now, Andrew Carnegie is going to control the steel mills. In particular, you have one called Homestead Steel, where we have a big strike, and we'll talk about that in labor unions, but it's really cool, so wait for it. Now, Andrew Carnegie is our stereotypical rags to riches. He came here as a boy from Scotland. He lived in a kind of a basement type thing under a bobbin pin factory, and he rose up and made as much money as possible. We love rags to riches stories. We love the person who's on the street and through hard work and determination make something of themselves. Okay? You don't believe me? Listen to any rapper saying they're always going to say, I started from the bottom and now I'm at the top. I mean, everybody always uses stuff, right? Why? Because we love it. Now, Carnegie did it through something called vertical integration. Now, vertical is up and down, right? Like a tree. He basically said, okay, I can make more money if I own the steel mills where the steel is brought in, or where the iron ore is brought in to make the steel. If I own the railroad cars to ship the steel out, and if I own all these different things. So when you control every step in the production of a process from the bottom to the top, it is called vertical integration. That's how Carnegie made his money. Okay. Our next one, J.P. Morgan. You might recognize Morgan, not Morgan and Morgan. He's not for the people. Trust me. But Morgan Banks, Chase Banks. So this guy had a lock on the money, on the banks. Now this man was actually so powerful because remember that 1893 panic when everybody took the money out? The only way the country got out of debt was he gave the country money to get out of debt. One man gave the country money to get out of debt. If you're not getting how important these people are and how powerful they are, that has to be an example, okay? Now our last one is Cornelius Vanderbilt. Cornelius Vanderbilt was a riverboat tycoon later on and a railroad tycoon. And he went and bought things up. Now, he is a transportation mogul, meaning he controlled this, and he is the man for whom Vanderbilt University and SEC in Nashville, Tennessee is named for. So these are our leaders of this, and they're by no means all of them. There's many other robber barons, monopolizers, tycoons, whatever you want to call them, but they're the ones that I'm holding you accountable for. All right? Bye.